Hi everyone. Hi Jay. Hi David.
Hey,
I'm
Jay.
gonna.
Jay, it's been minutes since I've seen you.
I know we got to stop meeting like this, and we got to stop meeting all day like this. Like it's but eventually we're just gonna need to get cubicles somewhere and just like I don't know, find some place to meet in the middle of the country or something. We got to do something.
Yeah, Jay, however, I will tell you ahead of time, I have no interest in following your schedule because, oh my gosh, it gets me tired just hearing about it.
It's a lot. It's a lot. If I could tell you that by the time Friday comes, like I have to front load all my meetings, and I'm not even joking. Like
Mhm.
Wednesday at about 2 o'clock, I have the 2 o'clock. I'm telling you, cameras off because 9 times out of 10, I am dozing off in that meeting. I'm like eyes are closing. I'm slumped over. Thursday comes, I'm like, oh my God, how many meetings do I have today? What is this? Friday comes, please no meetings. Just I guess we got that one. We got the risk dashboard meeting in the morning. That is it for the whole day. That is it. Uh, gets rough.
All right. Well, this
Um,
one says it's the identifying security threats meeting,
yeah.
but I don't see a.
Well,
a
Mike hasn't joined. Luigi, you taking over for Mike when he's not here?
When Michael is not here, I just open the document. I start to try to organize a meeting, and usually David write the meeting notes because he is definitely better than me to write meeting notes. So thank you. So I think that we can wait just 2 minutes to see if someone has joined in time for the meeting. Otherwise, we can start from the meeting notes. I can share the link in 1 second. This is the link for the meeting notes, and I will prepare them for today. And feel free to add yourself to the list of names and add topic to our agenda. I added the project from the previous meeting notes. And okay, if there are no new members or just people that usually don't join this meeting and they want to just to introduce themselves, feel free to introduce yourself. And but I think that
Hello.
Andres.
Hi.
Ciao.
Nice to meet you guys. I'm Andres. I'm actually a senior at NJAT and looking to contribute in any capacity.
You are welcome.
Thank you, thank you. I can go in more a little bit if you need or any questions. I'm down to answer.
Okay. I don't know if you have just choose this working group randomly or if you have already a background about our previous project. Anyways, this working group started the identifying security threats started now, I guess, 2 years ago, writing a document where we have tried to identify all the security risk and the threat that you can have if you have an open source project and you try to deploy it in production, where production means a packet manager or just to distribute it in another form. And then we started to work on other projects like the metric dashboard that now is deprecated, but it was a first attempt to aggregate metrics from scorecard, but not only, in an online dashboard based on Grafana that you can use to evaluate or compare different open source projects using the same metrics. Then from this working group, with the project Alpha and Omega started. It is a very big project now, have a total different. Well, now they have more people that work focus on it. So we receive updates in this working group. We talk about Alpha Omega, but there are better channels in Slack that you can use to monitor that project. Initially it was a way to be sure that maintainers can have the right tool, answer, and approach to handle security in their project. The Alpha project are the top 100 open source security project that we have defined, talking with in the working group and the OpenSSF Foundation, and the Omega project are the minor but not less important, just minor because less popular or just new open source project that have maybe fewer people that can contribute on it or that maintain them, but they need to have some security insights and maybe more automated, but still that can help the maintainer to have a better posture, security posture. Now this working group is still again working on a new metric dashboard, and there is another historic project is the security review that is well, I think that Amir, you are online. If you can talk, you can explain yourself about the project.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Luigi. Security Reviews is a GitHub repo meant to collect data on relevant research or security reviews done on open source projects. And the intention for that also is to feed into other things like the metrics dashboard and no, that's not in the security scorecards. Yes, in the metrics dashboard, namely, so folks can, who are doing any kind of due diligence or research or looking into a project can see, whether it has undergone a third-party security review or security audit, namely audits that have, public reports that can be viewed. So we're working on curating that kind of collection of security reviews and audits done. I guess while I have the mic, I will quickly update the group that I have not been able to make those updates just yet that I had planned on doing to the repo to kind of clean it up a little bit. But I'll actually do some of that here during our meeting today while we are discussing other things. But that's my main update for the repo. But yes, Andres, just also for your reference, it's the it's a GitHub repo OSSF/ security reviews. I'll link it in our chat imminently.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Then there is the security insights. That is another project where we are trying to define a specification that can help maintainers, user, and scanner to collect information. And probably I am forgetting other projects. People feel free to share more information because if I don't know if I forgot something, but it is a recap of the last 2 years. And cool. I think that we can start. There are, now there are the project updates. We want to add other topic to the agenda. You have other topic, people, or we can start? Okay, no objection. We can start. Okay, about the security insights, I have some updates. Jonathan is helping me with a lot of questions, a good comment and feedback to try to improve the security insights. In particular, he seems to be interested in the keys that can define how a scanner or researcher can open pull requests in an automatic way, because it's very good to automate security issue or security pull request to mitigate vulnerabilities to a large scale, but not all the maintainers are happy. So probably this specification can help to can help maintainers to define how they want to receive help by the community, not just with the policy, so the security.md, but also adding more granularity to the request. In particular, we have two, wait a second, I can find the link. We have two PR that are in review. One is to support the package URL, and one is to add more more granularity on how the maintainers can define if they want to have or not the bot in as helper or something similar. There is an interesting point in a discussion, in issue discussion. I think this one. Yeah, about this SBM. Because at the moment, apparently, there is no. I am pasting the link in the Google Doc in the meeting notes, but this is the issue. One of the interesting point that Jonathan has written is that at the moment there is no a standard to publish the SBM, the SBM file, or there is no standard for the nomenclature or something similar that doesn't help the scanner to find the SBM. Every different community or project use a different way to store or to publish and share the SBM files, and maybe this is something that in the future we want to be sure that OpenSSF can handle or have to handle. Yeah, because otherwise we are asking to maintainers to create SBM. We see the value of SBM, but it's not so easy. It's a manual task to find them. That is annoying. And that is for the security insights. For the vulnerability disclosure policy, there are just few comments open. I guess three threads open. One is about the name, because it's, I mean, David, is a question also for you, because there is my comment to your own suggestion is, we want to name it vulnerability disclosure policy or not. For me, it's okay. The point is that we have another vulnerability disclosure policy, but with a different intent and scope. Just to share, this is the project, the policy. Link in Zoom. So there are any opinion about the name? Because in the issue I named it security policy, just because it is similar to the security.md, but it is also famous in other, I mean, especially in website has coordinated the vulnerability disclosure policy. But we have also another issue where we are trying to introduce a vulnerability disclosure policy that is, the name is very similar, but the scope is quite different. One is on how OpenSSF researcher communicate with the maintainers about a vulnerability and share them in a public way. And the other one, the vulnerability disclosure policy that I'm trying to write is on how the researcher can communicate to us the vulnerability that we have. So I have no strong opinion about the nomenclature, but it's very easy to confuse them. If anyone has an opinion about this topic, feel free. Hi, Michael.
Sorry for being so late.
Don't worry. We were talking about the nomenclature for vulnerability disclosure policy, because we have now two policies with the same name, and it's not, I mean, initially I suggested security policy for the vulnerability disclosure policy where the researcher sends us the report. David suggests just a vulnerability disclosure policy. I have no strong opinion, but maybe we want to avoid confusion. So
yeah, I do have a strong opinion. Please don't call it a security policy when
okay.
the only thing you're talking about is vulnerability disclosure. Call it a vulnerability disclosure policy.
Yeah.
Because there's
Okay.
a huge number of things about security that have nothing to do with vulnerability disclosures. In particular, we're trying to make it so that we never need to use the vulnerability disclosure policy because we take other steps to reduce the likelihood of the vulnerabilities. So I don't actually object to the doc. It's just the title, and we can fix titles.
No, but it's okay if you say me vulnerability disclosure policy. I approve the edit. I close the thread. I am happy to close this topic. Honestly, just to be sure that as organization we agree that we have two different policies with a similar name. Just that.
If that's a confusion, use a different title. But yeah, I think there is another problem. We do have two disclosure policies, one for inbound and one for outbound.
Exactly.
So let's just include inbound and outbound in the title, and that way there's no confusion.
Yeah, I think this is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Inbound, call it OpenSSF inbound vulnerability disclosure policy or something like that. I like that.
Okay, perfect.
In fact, let me add that.
A deal. Perfect. So I can close another point. And that are my updates. Now there is the security review. There is a comment by David. And Amir, feel free to, if you have any updates, to share them.
Yeah, sorry, trying to do three things at once here. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So, all right. So basically, all right. So let me add this to the notes. Add inbound, since there's an outbound policy, and make it clear that's the scope. In title, that's the scope. Sorry, I can't do two things at once. Well, sometimes I can, but I'm having trouble right now. All right, yeah. So for security reviews, I have a quick note and a beg. Okay, so I have a grad student who's doing a brief review of a particular open source program. A bit wording, it doesn't matter specifically, but he's newer, so he's not going to be able to do the in-depth that somebody who does this professionally. But you know what? More review. The more folks look at these things with different and share exactly what they did, the more that other people can build on that. So I would encourage anybody else, if you're in an academic setting where, in particular, for whatever reason, a grad student is going to be reviewing open source software for security anyway, and going to be writing up something about it, please ask them to note it in security reviews. So that's just a beg to others. I get to beg. I get to. I'm jokingly saying this. I get to abuse my students. I hopefully don't really do that, but I get to oversee the awesome work that they do. And if they're going to do the work, I want others to be able to take advantage of the awesome work that the academic community is generating.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that sounds great. And then, just to reiterate my update, I'm now getting into making those updates that I talked about in the previous meeting, just cleaning up the repo a little bit and updating some of those blanket reviews that had a lot of sub reviews in them. So we'll just break those down. And so I'm actually going to be working on that now for the rest of the meeting. But that's my main update there.
Awesome.
That means that I'm up. All right, so we had once again great effort, great progress on the risk dashboard. Michael Hart has joined our band, so has Sarah Evans, and a lot of good conversation came out of that. Mike will be looking at how we get, and I'm teasing this apart in my mind because I don't have the notes in front of me, but the next stage of how we bring in data and what that data looks like into the risk dashboard. Raul continues to plug away, code wise and getting the actual look and feel and how we're actually ingesting the data, getting that together. So he's been phenomenal thus far. A couple of other things that have occurred as of late, and this is after the fact. This is as of yesterday. Biturgia and MITRE. We got a couple of good contacts in both of those orgs, because I think what we were talking about in the meeting too is how is GitHub going to be the only place where we get our data from, and that's not that we wanted to be able to expand past that. So in that effort, we reached out and got a couple of good contacts from Biturgia and MITRE, so that we could better understand some of the things that they do in terms of getting more information, and maybe we can use those efforts or find a way that we can kind of do something similar so we can get more data from just more data than just from GitHub. And then of course we'll bring that back into the SIG and discuss that at length and all of that. But the exciting part about this is I've committed our SIG to produce something that we can actually put in front of OpenSSF Day even, right? And not a full demo, but perhaps some mock-ups that we can put in OpenSSF Day, say, hey, this is where we're at this far. And then of course, by the middle of next month, going into the end of next month, we may be able, we should be able to bring before this working group a workable demo of what we have with everything, enter into the search of package. This is the content that comes out of it, all that kind of stuff. And so we're really excited about that. We're moving full steam ahead. I'm really excited about what we're producing and iteratively. My one comment was, don't let perfection be the enemy of putting something out. So we're gonna, we'll put something out. It won't be perfect, but it'll be something that's something that we can do further releases and everything else. But we're, like I said, we're moving full steam ahead, and it's an exciting effort to this point. Hey, if there are any questions, please let's have them.
It's just really exciting to see this stuff moving forward. I'm really looking forward to turning off the metrics infrastructure.
That's the other thing. So Raul was able to finally he got access to the back end. So here shortly we'll be moving the metrics.openssf.org to a legacy metrics.openssf.org, and we'll be having a preview.metrics.openssf.org, so you can preview the live thing, and I think that'll be in time for the demo, right? So once that happens, that'll be up, and we'll be, that'll start the process of merging from the old and into the new, and once again, exciting, because what we have coming is we had a few questions on what the kind of content will be present in it, and David happily answered that question, say, hey, we're not going to be able to please all of the people all of the time. Some of the people, some of the time, absolutely, and iteratively as we continue to improve upon it and do future releases, more and more content that are relevant to more and more people will be present. I will add, one of the things that we're teasing apart is the single maintainer. The single maintainer, that bubble, because what that does to scores, how we think about scoring around single maintainers, that's still being teased apart, and that'll take a little bit of time to perfect as well. So I'm saying that to say we understand. We're looking at it. and we'll make sure that we do right by single maintainers as well. Yeah.
Cool. I guess I'm up. So assurance assertions, we're working on SigStore integration this week. We've kind of deferred out how we think about signing and validation and stuff like that. But I don't think we can push it out any longer. So, we've had just a, key pair signing, for a while, but I think SigStore is probably the better way to go. I really like the idea of keyless signing so that you can just kind of trust the author by essentially email address. So that's kind of what we're experimenting with right now. I'm hoping to have something done early next week showing that, and then getting more assertions built out and talking about it more, and kind of I still think we'll be in this kind of proof of concept dev environment for the next month or two. But then we can talk about what it means to make this thing a real thing and getting more contributors to it and all that stuff. If you guys haven't seen assurance assertions, it's just bit.ly/assurance assertions, one word. The last thing, and this kind of came up, started to kick this around as part of some of the AutoFix conversations, that there really isn't a good way today to find how should you report something privately to the maintainer without like a human like looking through different things and trying to find a signal somewhere. But that the way that a human would do it isn't exactly like magical. So let's just script it and do the best we can. So I've got a script that I'll put on, I'll upload somewhere in the next couple of days. But the idea is, you give it a package URL, and it goes out and it looks for signals. So if they have GitHub private vulnerability disclosures enabled, that should be the top that's the preferred mechanism. If they have a Tidelift contract, it should be Tidelift. Otherwise, and then we fall back to like scraping security MD files and every other like variation of a security MD file. I have security insights. It's aware of the security insights files, and then just email addresses in READMEs and NPM and PyPy and everybody else. So the idea is, just come out with a preferred ordering, like most likely to least likely, and then it'd be up for some other tool to consume that, to do something with it and say, either send out emails or open up issues or whatever. So I think it's just something small and tiny, but I was surprised that I couldn't find anything else out there that did this. So
this is extremely useful. Is it available? So you say you're gonna post it somewhere or upload it somewhere soon?
Yeah, I'm just gonna I could make it an OpenSSF repo if somebody else thinks that would be useful. I could throw it someplace. I could throw it under Alpha Omega or this working group or someplace. It doesn't really matter. I guess it probably should be published published on PyPy, I guess, so that others could consume it pretty easily. But yeah, it'll be open sourced. It's just like the hood's up right now, and there's like stuff all over the floor. So
sure,
I want to have a slightly better condition, but like by the end of the week, it'll be up.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah. See, do we have anything else to talk about? how about this? Is there anything, is there anything that we should be focusing on? You know, we should do this every, every 6 months or so, but like, is there anything that we're focusing on, that we're spending our time on, that we shouldn't be as part of this working group? And on the other side, is there anything that we should be focusing on that we're not through this working group? Brainstorming, pie in the sky. If we could do everything, if we had 1,000 other people, to kind of help us, are there things that we should be doing?
I started to review our original document to do a versus 1.3. It's not still public, so it is on my Google Drive. I'm working on it. I wish I were when I have added enough comment, especially because I need to read it again because it's very long, and I need to decide where I can write additional context for some new risks that are defined in the open issue that we have. So I am working on it. I'm just prioritizing the security insight for Alpha Omega / Jonathan, I don't know yet, and for the security policy, because maybe we want to have it, especially because without the security policy, the vulnerability disclosure policy or a security.md, we cannot share. But yeah, an idea is to do a quick refresh to the document. I don't think a version v2, because the document is still good, just update some risk. For example, authentication, maybe suggesting just the two-factor, but an hardware-based two-factor. And also probably it's very annoying task, and I don't task this honestly, but also the verify comment can be a good suggestion. But yeah, so it is on my to-do list. I'm working on it, just prioritizing the other two things.
Got it. I go back and see what else we've talked about that we kind of hasn't really gone anywhere.
I have a kind of a half-baked idea, so apologies if it just sounds like a ramble, but one thing I've noticed or observed, it seems like there's a lot of really great efforts, and a lot of them seem to be kind of parallel or very similar. Like even, for example, just talking about, a vulnerability disclosure policy, I start to think of the Google Project Zero vulnerability disclosure policy, which is, pretty well established and followed policy for this kind of thing. And I wonder if it would be possible to almost like map all of the great work being done, because I feel like lots of times some of the parallel efforts can almost build off of each other, or similar efforts can build off of each other. So again, yeah, sorry, this is kind of a half-baked thought / idea, but I just wonder, or even if something like that exists, because I feel like lots of times we say like, oh, like, wouldn't this thing be great? And then, someone responds, oh, like that already exists.
Yeah.
And so like, I wonder if like there's any way to map just all of both the great work being done, all the efforts being done, and all the resources out there, so that they could be almost grouped or used in parallel, or yeah, just a thought. End of rant.
I love the GitHub repos that are like awesome, awesome dev tools, or awesome this or awesome that. I could totally see, I mean, the way I heard it is like, it could just be a list of like, vulnerability disclosure policies like OpenSSF, GPZ, like,
Exactly.
and so others come up with good ones, let's just add them. And then just kind of, risk dashboards. Well, we've got our thing, we've got, open hub, or and
deps.dev, yeah.
Yeah. And that way, at least we collect them, so that way the next time somebody's like, I should make a disclosure policy, we're like, have you checked the awesome disclosure policies repo?
Yeah.
I like it. It also sounds a little bit like, who's doing, is Crobe doing it? The like the reference architecture of like everything that we're doing, like
Yes.
a full map.
Yes, I was just thinking that. I remember there being conversations of yeah, basically mapping out all the different stuff so that, you know, folks can understand like how working groups work together, for example, and kind of architecturing, having like architecture reference documents for that. So yeah, I wonder if maybe that's something that can then be incorporated into that architecture. Like, what are the list of, you know, things that are being worked on in this working group, and then if that could feed into like a larger list or something. But yeah, again, just brainstorming some thoughts. I didn't mean to take over the discussion, but because yeah, again, I just think there's so many great efforts being done, and a lot of them are similar. You know, there are a lot of them.
I mean, this wonderful piece of work that David so kindly, and well, I don't know if David built on what Crobe did, but this wonderful piece of work here that was put together from the Diagrammer Society.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, you can blame me and the Diagrammer Society. I'm the one who created the first version of this, and then it went into the hopper of the Diagrammer Society, who beat it up, improved it, cleaned it up, put in things that I hadn't put in there, and you know, in a pure open source way, all the hands in there made it better than any one of us.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just slightly different than this. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I think it's like, I don't know, orthogonal or like adjacent to it. But like, for example, like SigStore, you know, what are the other things that are like SigStore that are not SigStore? And you know, supply chain attack taxonomies. Like, I'm sure someone else has done a taxonomy.
Yep.
And that way we put ourselves in context with things that are way outside of OpenSSF. I would contribute to that.
like that paper that was wrote that we're looking at as being like a foundational item to the taxonomy stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So there's an academic paper that was written that's fantastic, believe it or not. That's used foundationally, absolutely.
So let's do this for fear of like jumping right into implementation. Do we want to just start a doc and see if there's enough meat in the idea that the doc looks interesting, and then if the doc looks interesting, then we'll find the right place, the right repo, or get it to the Diagrammer Society and things like that, with a little bit of meat on it? Or do we want to go to them and say, hey, do you think this is a good idea first? Or do we want to do anything with it?
I mean, I don't see the harm in spending 5 minutes starting to get some things down on paper and seeing if there's enough interest to keep working on it.
Cool. So let's do this. Copy link. Link in the chat and link in resources. And this is a full edit link, so we'll fix it later. Like,
metrics/statistics.
and we can combine these out by,
Yeah.
you know,
disclosure policies. Quick question, Jay, when you were referring to an academic paper, were you referring to the threats, mitigations, and risks in the open source ecosystem paper?
Well, I'll show you. Give me 1 second.
Sure, yeah, take your time. Thank you. So maybe that could even be one too. So like, research / white papers. State of open source. Standards. That's
Talking about this bad boy right here.
Oh, this is a new one, very new one.
Yeah, I mean, very well written. Albeit, at the time of its publishing, once again, talks about salsa in there, has some MITRE stuff in there. But when you're talking about the research questions and about doing that and how they create their hypothesis, I mean, it's just a very well written paper that also has a lot of room to, with some of the stuff that we do here, especially from an end user's perspective. And you're thinking about taxonomies and the taxonomy of attacks and threat vectors and all threat models and everything else. This is actually but this from an academic standpoint gives us a foundation to talk about taxonomies across the board. So yeah, I mean, look, give it a read. I'll put the link here. I'll put the link here. Give it a read. Fantastic stuff.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I looked into the paper. This was submitted to IEEE S&P, but was not accepted. So I don't know what the reason is or anything, but I just wanted to take it with a grain of salt. It's not published work.
Just like all academic papers. I mean, sometimes it's mostly written from a theoretical perspective and not necessarily a heavy practical. I mean, you have a methodology that you're going to use, right? You're either quantitative or qualitative methodology, but I believe here they used a blend between the qualitative and the quantitative methodology to write this. But when you consider, the tool you use, I mean, it's not, you're not surveying a bunch of practitioners who are then providing, your taxonomies are always hard because everybody has their own.
I actually spoke too hastily. It did get published, so that means, and IEEE S&P is the top security conference. So now I'm completely on the other side of the spectrum. So this should be very much referenceable. Sorry, I spoke too early.
Yeah. But you have a link there. You would go read. And this is I needed, of course, for me, I needed to have a couple of these tall boys of coffee for me to read it. It's been a little since the days when I was gung ho writing my dissertation, when I sucked down articles and scholarly stuff, and it was towards that finish line. After that, I kind of brain dumped anything related to trying to read something. So I needed a couple of tall boys of coffee to get through it, but it's some good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah. And now it's just us. And what's the name of that donut shop? There's a donut chain in Canada that can't ever remember the name of it.
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons, there it is. Yeah, I definitely want to go hit that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
You'll find it in every corner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just want a donut. Not I don't eat that kind of stuff, but a donut just to say I had one. Preferably if it has like the Oreo cookies on top. I saw this place called Voodoo Donuts. I happened to be at Universal Studios. I don't get on rides or anything. We don't do any of that. But I walked around. I saw this place called Voodoo Donuts, and they had this big giant Oreo cookie with the cream donut on it. And I walked around all day long. So I said, you know what? I can have this donut. So I had it, and I have yet to find one like it since. That was a oh, I dream about that donut sometimes. Exactly. I'm just filling space, people. We're here together now.
So let me fill the space a little bit. So there's one thing that we did was the maintainer summit, and the report is due. It's actually past due, but I mean there's been a dramatic drop of enthusiasm after the event. So right now it's like myself and Emily who are, I wouldn't say like actively working on it, but yeah, we're making some progress on it. We promised some people that we should be doing by April 15. I think we might be off by a few days, but yeah, it should be around that time. So it's basically a summary of what we understood from that particular event, and some recommendations that from our perspective. We initially planned to be a collaborative perspective, but it's probably going to be just a couple of people's perspective. But then, yeah, we would like to have feedback on that. So that's something that we are doing right now and should be coming soon. There's one other thing that Yesenia and myself, we planned. So we did a pre-event survey before that particular event, and there were some really questions that appeared to be pretty relevant and should be asked in a broader audience. So we planned a broader survey of practices that are followed by open source security maintainers. So I created that survey some time ago, but Yesenia was finding out the logistics, like as in whom to call. Initially, we thought that we could probably have, I think she can tell you better, but initially we thought that we could probably have like the Linux Foundation members. They can be reached and stuff, but there probably was some issue regarding that. So it would have to be dialed down to a scale that we can manage. So it's not going to be like a really big scale, but we'll send it out. And that's something that's upcoming. I think we discussed it earlier at some point in this group and not in the Alpha Omega group. So that's why I'm bringing it here. But that's like we just so Yesenia just published the survey and on Google Doc, created that survey on Google Docs. So we should be sending that out soon. And so that's something that yeah, we are also very excited about, and hopefully we'll get some interesting results on this that we can share in a couple of months or so.
Awesome. Let's see. Okay, so sorry for the doc that we've been adding links to. Do we feel like we have an opinion on it yet on what to do? Like, want to tilt the scale, but it looks like this could grow into a pretty neat list. Does anybody have objections to spending between now and maybe the next meeting, just adding more stuff, and then at the next meeting deciding whether or not to bring it to Diagrammer Society?
What, the taxonomy?
The awesome supply chain security stuff, Doc.
Okay. Sorry.
My immediate thought is there something else like this also? Because I think that's if that's the inspiration for this, right? So but I do think it would be just so helpful for folks to be like, what are all the resources on this topic, for example, and then, or what are all the efforts being done in this space?
I mean, maybe it would even make sense to have this be, I mean, not quite maybe it is a doc at that point, but like have GPZ, for example, for the top one, be a link down to a section below that says, or maybe it's a table or something, but it's like GPZ is a blah, 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 blah. Here's a link to the actual GPZ, thing. And that way each of these are, I don't know, maybe it can just be just a list. Like I don't want to overcomplicate it and turn this into a large document when it really, if it's just a list of hyperlinks, like maybe we start with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's feel free to just add stuff to this list over the next 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks we'll decide whether or not it's in good enough shape to get to Diagrammer Society with a recommendation to like publish it or maintain it or something. And if they don't want to, we could too. Like doesn't seem like a huge lift. Cool. And then last thing, I was just looking through a couple weeks ago, we talked about URL parsing ambiguities, where URL lib3, you can trick it into parsing it one way, and the Java equivalents do it slightly different, and Node does it slightly different. So if you are unaware of the gotchas and the foot guns in there, you could be validating things like OAuth return URLs incorrectly and make security decisions based off of that. So the thought, if I recall, was to come out with a pretty simple website, app, whatever thing that essentially ran, you gave it a URL and it would run 20 different URL parsers and show you the differences, and then kind of use that as a playground and as a teaching moment for that these things are different and are worthy of paying closer attention to.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I started with the npm ecosystem, testing some library. I should probably just collect the script and, well, I tested just a single payload for multiple library, but creating a metric should not be a problem. I started with npm, so probably I can at least finish npm and then I can move to other ecosystem, probably Python, because I know it better than other. And then we can see, and also Java. I also written to Oracle just to know.
Yeah.
I sent, hey, there is this behavior, because they have two standard library, URL and URI. And I mean, my expectation is that the URL is a subset of URI. So technically, if URL work in a way, the same should do the URI. Exactly. But they have different.
If life were only this simple.
Okay. So they said me that they are investigating and they write me monthly updates.
Nice.
And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's silent from 3 weeks, but let's see.
I love it. Love it. Yeah, kind of the way I was thinking about this was, we have a repo with a bunch of different Docker files, each Docker file containing like, this is going to be node version X running this library, and then people just add more Docker files. So we have, whatever, we have 500 of them, it doesn't matter. And then as part of the script, it just goes through each one, and they all have like a well-defined interface. So you just like pass the URL to it, and you get back a dictionary of like, the host name was found to be this, and the fragment was this. And that way you can run them all and then see the difference.
Yeah, probably Dockerfile is a good idea. At least create a Dockerfile for different ecosystem where you can just script. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So from a actionable perspective, like as a detection, is it that you look into application code and see that there are like multiple libraries being used and you flag that? I mean, is it that simple or?
I don't think, what it could work. It could work if you have a kind of a complex system where one system over here is Java and it's validating something and then sending it over here, and this one's doing it different, and like it should usually fail closed, but maybe they fail open, and they're I think the bigger issue though is that if we go to let's say we find out that Java and Python do it differently for whatever reason, and we go to Java and we're like, you guys do it different than Python, and they're like, yep. And we go to Python and we say, you guys are doing it different than Java, and they're like, yep. Like that's great, but like only we know that. Having the this kind of website, dashboard, app, whatever, showing that like everybody's the same except for I'll pick on one library. That probably means that the library is doing it wrong, versus everybody is doing something slightly differently with like double slashes or something. In which case it's not really clear that there, and maybe this is a gap for the standard. So really it's more, I think, to flesh out, to understand the problem better.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. We're at time. Thank you all very much. Again, sorry for being late. Thank you for carrying on, and have a great rest of your week, and see you guys in 2 weeks. And I hope to see many of you in Vancouver.
Michael, I do need to meet with you at some point. We discussed about it. Yeah, I mean, we can schedule that. I'll send you an email.
I'm going to set it up right now. I'm going to send you a link literally right now.
Sure.
Right. Okay. Here's the link is in chat.
Thank you.
Just do that, and use that whenever, just to like nail me down into a specific time.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thanks all.